So the question has been asked to many of you, why or why not, why don't you play standard? And what is keeping you from the game, or what you don't like about it? And my conversations around it have all been about foundation. So I want to ask you another question today. Will you ever play standard? Would you ever want to play standard? And what would be the one thing that would help you get back into standard? That may be a thing, or get into standard in general. What is going to get you back to standard, or want you to play standard? Welcome to MTG Thursday Thoughts, as we talk about different things in Magic together. Today we're going to talk a little bit about standard in general. I'm not going to go through them all, but through my videos, I did a video about standard recently, and there was so many different comments that people made about standard and why they wouldn't play standard and why they didn't want to play it, or this and that, from the fact that they don't like rotating formats to the fact that you have to buy a new deck every other week, they said, because of the meta shifting, all those different things. And the thing about it is, I understand that there can be some frustrations with it, but here's the cool thing about standard, at least from what I understand, and it depends on what you want to do. So if you're doing very competitive things, so your store's having RCQs, that is one thing. Tournaments where you're going in and trying to win prizes and stuff like that and even get put onto the Pro Tour, that's one thing. You want to run super strong decks. Now, you can run in those decks and run a non-meta deck and actually possibly go fairly far because people don't have answers for what you're running. That being said, though, I get that part of it. But the other problem with it is a lot of people were complaining about saying, well, I'm not playing competitively, but my game store does this or that. So every game store, every local game store is different. Some local game stores have just a very casual night where people can come bring their standard decks, play for fun. I was talking more about that, like just coming to play standard as like you would play Commander. Not that we're playing it competitively, not that we're going into standard to be like, oh, we're going to try to win all these prizes, but to do very similar what we do in Commander, and that is build fun decks and come and bring them and just play for the fun of it. I would love more people to get into Standard so we can just have a lot of fun random decks. You don't have to build the top meta deck. You don't have to build the strongest deck, but maybe they're like, well, yeah, but if I do, there's going to be this one guy who builds a deck. Well, guess what we do in Commander when that happens? We build a stronger deck, or we find ways to stop them. That's the cool thing about Standard sideboard. So if there's one guy that's running this one certain deck, you could maybe make a deck anti against what he's running, or sideboard against him. Have a whole sideboard that can stop him. I'm not going to convince everybody to play standard, but I believe Foundations is giving us a very, very good way forward with wanting to play standard and getting into standard. I believe we had Foundations. I believe Aether Drift, that next step is going to be Aether Drift with some of the cards that are come out for it. It's going to make it really exciting, push vehicles to the forefront. And so I believe that, honestly, standard is in a great place right now. I'm not talking about competitively. I think it's very diverse in the meta. If you look at the actual meta of standard, at least from what I've seen, the best of three. We're not talking on arena. So arena best of one is not standard. It is arena best of one. It is its own thing. I'm talking about standard best of three, where you're playing actually how you're supposed to be. The meta is quite diverse. The Demir, there's 10 to 15 decks up there that can competitively win and possibly do well in these different things. So you could run an RCQs. I read an article just the other day that had 10 different decks they basically want a former world champion put out saying, hey, these different decks could actually win you your RCQ. Hey, these different decks are really, really good. Here's top 1 through 10 that I would rank them in their power rankings right now. But he said any one of them could do you well to win an RCQ, to win a Friday Night Magic with standard. And so there is a huge difference between just playing for fun and playing playing casually and taking it and being like, oh, I'm going to be competitive with it. I would love more people just to have standard decks that they play for fun. That you can get together and goof off with these decks and have some fun and see what people do. So play goblins versus elves and different things like that. I personally am working on building 10 different standard decks that are all around the same power level. We're not going to top tier power level. They're going to be have tap lands and stuff like that. And then eventually, if I get the budget for it or can find them, I would probably add a lot of the simple 2 or less lands in there if they're the affordable ones. But I'm building things like elves and goblins, cat tribal, lifelink, stuff like that, that is not necessarily top tier meta decks, but are fun, enjoyable, that if someone comes and wants to pick up a deck and play, I can be like, hey, here, I've got these 10 different decks, let's play Standard, let's have fun with it. I would like Standard to get back to where people originally got into Magic, was with Standard. Now, I'm not saying that Commander is going to go away. I love Commander, and I absolutely enjoy it, but I would love to be able to also be like, hey, you want to play a 60-card format? Hey, you want to play Standard? And we're not just going at it and be like, oh, we got to have this meta deck in the top tier. I get it. There are a lot of stores out there that do competitions and for prizes and stuff, and when people do that, people tend to bring the strongest. But you know what? You can still have fun. People seem to forget that this game is all about having fun. Yes, there are ways to make money, so to say, at playing higher levels, but most of us are never going to get into the Pro Tour. Most of us are never going to be that player. We're going to be that casual, fun, enjoyable player that just enjoys Magic for fun. It's something that takes your mind off the world and what's going on. That's where I'm at. Do I like to compete, and how I won a tournament or two? I've gotten close to some tournaments. I've won a few of like drafts and stuff like that, and it's fun. Will I ever be a professional player? Probably not ever, because I'm not that good. I would need people to come around me and basically teach me what I needed to do or not. I have really crazy ideas that work in a sense, but they're just too complicated to actually continuously win in Standard. Can I build different decks? Yeah, I see all kinds of deck ideas all the time. And hopefully in the near future, you're going to see some of these decks coming out. I'm hoping to be doing some Magic the Gathering arena streams so we can test some of these decks together. So we'll have arena streams where you can see some of these decks in best of 1 and in best of 3. And running them and playing them and showing you about sideboarding and stuff along those lines and what we want to sideboard, what we want to get into. And so I really want to help people get into Standard. I love Standard. I like where it's at right now. In the past, it was very same, like 4 or 5 decks, rough ideas. Nowadays, there's such a wide variety that you can build and have fun with them. And I'm hoping to get more people to be like, yeah, I want to get back to that. Not only having Standard where you can be competitive, so to say, but also you can just go and have fun. So like, as we sit down and play Commander for 2 hours, we could also sit down and play Standard with 6 of us and play for 30 minutes, just some Standard decks, and goof off and have some fun and be like, okay, you won turn 5, let's shuffle back up. Sideboard, let's go into it. So that's my thought. This is a slight discussion of Standard. I think Aether Drift is going to continue building it, and then you get into Final Fantasy, you get into all the rest of the sets for the year that's going to continue to build on Standard and making it fun and more accessible for people. Here's the thing. If we're always so focused about the competitive side of stuff, as far as like, what's the meta, what's the highest tier, let's play and be super competitive, unfortunately, when new players come in, we're going to lose new players unless they get into Commander. If we can make Standard, though, fun and enjoyable on top of having it as its competitive outlets, it's going to bring people in, and the people that are very competitive and want to do that will get into the competitive side of it. And then we just want to play casually, can come in and pick up a Standard deck and just play for fun, as well as picking up Commander decks and playing for fun. So my thought today is I hope maybe more and more stores, more and more people will realize that, yes, Standard is fun, and we can play it as more casual. We can play it casually. We can have fun with it. We can build the decks we want, but we don't have to have necessarily the meta deck and all of this stuff. You can just have fun with it. And so I hope this comes out there. This is a little bit longer of a video, but you know, on my Thursday videos, a lot of times I'm just sitting talking, and I enjoy talking about Magic the Gathering. And you know, make sure to catch the podcast and stuff like this. Some of this stuff may end up on some of the Cast and Cross podcasts that we do every Friday that comes out. And so I want to thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, you know, let us know in the comments. Let us know questions, comments, things like that. We love to discuss things that we can bring back up and things that maybe concerns me, like, oh, this isn't going to work because of this or that. Well, I would love to discuss it, and I'll maybe make some videos of it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. As always, we'll see you next time.